Okay, as you see in your bulletin this morning, this brings us down to the reading of the church history and the timeline. Geraldine is going to read our church history, and then I'm going to do the timeline. So, Geraldine, you're going to come back here, all right? Come on.
Get up here so we spread it out.
You got it? Okay. Yeah, amen. You get to hide behind the pulpit.
Right. Well, thank you, Preacher Tim, and welcome everyone to our grand 100th anniversary celebration.
Amen.
In the early 1900s, the residents of the Sandy Run community of Chesterfield County did not have a place to worship. It was a small rural community, but one that was fortunate enough to have a one-room schoolhouse that could possibly serve a dual purpose for its people. The schoolhouse was located just across the highway from where we are now. Actually, where our church stands today, straight across. And as you're leaving today, as Preacher Tim has already mentioned, if you will look to your left, on the left back wall, there's a painting that was done by former member Patricia Kirkley Gregory, and she's present with us today.
Amen.
She painted that, and we're so fortunate to have it because we searched through a lot of old pictures, and the church would be there, but not the schoolhouse, but that was really the first church building. Feeling God's call to action, in August of 1917, a group of Sandy Run community residents received permission to use the schoolhouse as a place of worship. The name of the group of worshipers would become known as Beauford Baptist Church. Now, the story is told that the way the church got its name was from one of the founders that was unable to be present on the day that they were trying to decide on a name for the group. Now, this individual was Mr. Dan Jordan. And since Mr. Jordan was unable to be present, they said, let's let him name the church. Well, there are numerous theories as to the origin of the name Beauford. But today it still remains a mystery why he chose the name Beauford. On October the 23rd, 1919, Beauford Baptist Church joined the Chesterfield Baptist Association. We were now a recognized, bona fide church.
Amen.
Meeting still in a schoolhouse. Now, worship services continued to be held in the Sandy Run Schoolhouse for another 3 years. But with more families moving into the community and attendance increasing, the need was felt for a more appropriate place of worship. So in 1922, the men of the church took action. And with the donation of both land and timber, they began to cut logs and transport them with a team of mules 2 miles down the road to Horton's water-powered mill. While the building was under construction, it was struck by lightning. But somehow, it was just not God's will to stop these people from building a church.
Amen.
These determined individuals went ahead with the original plan. As time went on, in 1946, we began to branch out a little bit and take on some extra activities other than just worship service. The first Vacation Bible School was held in the summer of 1946, and it was under the direction of Miss Madge Funderburg, who was the Chesterfield Baptist Associational missionary. The average attendance for this first Bible school was 30. Now, some of us here today attended this Vacation Bible School, and I happen to be one of them.
Amen.
I was 6 years old at the time. And in 1949, Baptist Training Union, also known as BTU, was begun on Sunday nights. We were really progressing. And according to the Chesterfield Baptist Association minutes, the average attendance was 55. Now, BTU, as we call it, gave us an opportunity to develop our skills in public speaking. Because on Sunday nights, we had to memorize or else we had to know a part well enough that we could get up and present it to our class. As time passed in 1953, the church was undergoing some more expansion. I might add some much needed structural and cosmetic changes. Much of the building material being used for that project was stolen. But with some swift investigative work by both law enforcement and church members, it was found stashed under some corn shucks in an old barn down in Darlington County. Fortunately, the materials were recovered, and the work of adding an addition to the front of the church, hardwood floors, pews, pulpit furniture, and a new heating system was completed. Now, from 1960 to 1974, Beauford shared a pastor with McBee Baptist Church. The services would alternate from noon and night, from Sunday to Sunday, during these 14 years. In 1975, the church decided to go bivocational, with our pastors working at a public job while also serving as pastor. Now, many additions and improvements have been made through the years to the existing buildings we call Beauford. You'll hear a little bit more about that in Tim's timeline. God has been good to us.
Amen.
Today, as we celebrate the 100th birthday of this church we call Beauford, I would like to recognize the men of God who have led this body of believers as its pastors. Since its beginning, Beauford Baptist Church has had 16 different pastors, and they are as follows: Reverend Wiley Cato, Reverend Jim Hunter, Reverend Broadus Broom, Reverend Fess Robinson, Reverend Irvin Melton, Reverend Coley Smith, Reverend R.J. Roberts, Reverend Harvey Bird, Reverend Carl Ziegler, Reverend William Blaylock, Reverend Larry Allen, Reverend Marvin Adams, Reverend Paul Sowell, Reverend James Baker, Reverend Ron Hanna, and our present pastor, Reverend Tim Williams, who just celebrated his 17th year with us as our pastor.
Amen.
Now, our history in the early years is very sparse, and much that I have shared with you was from word of mouth from members who have passed on. If anybody has any questions, they'll have to go to heaven to get them. For that reason, I have purposely not included a lot of names because I did not want to miss recognizing anyone. But one thing I do know for sure is that there were some very dedicated men and women who gave of their resources unselfishly and unconditionally to the glory of God to establish and sustain this body of believers through the past 100 years.
Amen.
Yes, today, as Beauford Baptist Church is commemorating the past, celebrating the present, and embracing the future, as we recall the legacy and foundation that was laid by those who have gone on before. Let us be challenged to continue to build and strengthen as we embark on Beauford's second century of service both to God and man.
Amen.
Thank
Amen.
you.
Okay, very quickly, let me give you a timeline. Geraldine has covered it pretty graciously, but 1922, the church was built on its present site. 1953, the church was remodeled. Front was added to the building, new floors and pews and heating system. 1959, Brotherhood building was built behind the church. Electric organ was purchased. 1963, new carpet. 1971, we painted the church. Put 2 new air conditioning window units in. So we got some air in 1971. 76, the fellowship building was built. 78, the aluminum siding was put on the church. 79, the steeple was put on, and it was donated by Drew and Anna Ruth Kirkley, and we appreciate their donation. 83, new carpet. 83, pews were padded, and again, Drew and Anna Ruth donated the money to have the pews padded that you're sitting on today, so we thank you for that. New sanctuary lights were added, donated by Evie and Inez Kirkley in 1983. 1984, we put windows on the shutters on the inside of the windows. Now they gone because we put stained glass now. But 85, the piano was purchased. New communion set was donated by Willie and Peggy Huggins. 89, the porch was added to the fellowship building and a new roofing installed. 89, the church was underpinned and the church was covered due to damage by, remember old Hurricane Hugo? 1990, a new ceiling was put in the sanctuary. The church was painted again. Vinyl siding was put on the fellowship building. Windows were put in the porch, and they were donated by the Lawson Kirkley family. And then 1999, a handicap ramp was added to the front of the church and the sidewalk added to the fellowship building. 2003, we put in a central heat and air. In 2007, the stained glass windows were installed in the pulpit area. They were donated by the Lawson Kirkley family behind us, and that's what got us started wanting to put the rest of the windows in from these stained glass windows. In 2007, New Baptist hymnals were purchased and as memorials to Inez Kirkley, and you see those on the front of your hymn book. Then 2010, the steeple on the church was repainted. 2016, the church and the fellowship building was rewired. Heat and air units were replaced in the sanctuary and in the fellowship building. 2017, our 13 stained glass windows were installed in the church, and if you look, you can start with the birth of Christ and tell somebody about the Lord's life all the way around to his ascension into heaven. That's the way we planned it out. 2017, the fellowship building was renovated with new floors, interior painting, lights, kitchen appliances, cabinets, tables, and chairs. And we are ready to roll. How about that? So we thank God. I want to thank God for all the families over the years who've donated to make our church as beautiful as it is today. Many families donated money to bought a window. You will see those being recognized at the bottom of each window if you take time to look. And I pray that after you eat, you'll come back in and look at the windows up closely. They're beautifully done. I believe they were done by Law's Stained Glass. Is that right, Danny? Okay. Y'all help me out. All right. So beautiful windows. All right. Reading the church. Okay, we got that. So now we got to do something very important. Yeah. Robin did pre-like these so they'll light up this morning. I did remember to bring matches, so I've got that covered. Yeah. Okay. The candles are lit. Today we celebrate the 100th anniversary birthday of Beauford Baptist Church. So here's what we're going to do. Geraldine, you're going to play for us, right? Okay. We're going to sing, and then I'm going to count down like 3, 2, 1, and y'all going to blow, and then we're going to blow the candles. All right? Okay. So all right, Geraldine. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to the Baptist Church. Happy birthday. We're gonna blow them out. We might have to light them back, but no, they'll be done with everybody. Okay, all right. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday, blow.